I've wanted one of these guitars for over 25 years, and I'm so stoked to not only show it to you, but to tell you all about it. Honestly, I've been playing it non-stop since it arrived, and I can safely say this is the best Super Strat I've ever played in my entire life. So some of you might be wondering, what the heck is this guitar? And some of you might be just like the slogan on the shipping box. If you know, you know. And today I want to introduce you to my new guitar, talk all about it, tell you a little bit about the company, as well as let you listen to the glorious sounds and tones. And make sure you watch till the end, because I'm going to show you how this guitar specifically kind of unlocked a magical 80s tone that I've been chasing for a long time. So I want to give you guys a little backstory on James Tyler guitars. James Tyler started doing custom guitars and repairs in the Los Angeles area in the 70s and caught the attention of many of our favorite LA studio session players and sidemen in the 80s and 90s. Legends like Michael Landau, Steve Lukather, Dan Huff were among the many players that had guitars either modified by Jim or had custom guitars built.
He just got first famous for how he could make a guitar play. Not only play well, but stay in tune. Like way back in the 70s, late 70s, he was already taking he'd take a Fender bridge and just drill it all the way out up to the plate so that there was not string down in the bridge where when you use the tremolo, it loosens up. That's why now everybody, you look on almost any tremolo that's not locking and that ball end is way up in the bridge, but he was drilling them out to get it up there to the bridge. And he was putting stuff under the tuners so he wouldn't have to have a string tree so that it would stay in tune there. And he was, using nuts with Vaseline and doing all this stuff so they'd stay in tune, intonate, all this, because obviously session guys got word that, he was doing this and they go to got $5,000 orchestra standing around looking at them. And if there's something funky with their guitar and they're holding up the session, well, then they started asking for mods. Like, how can we get more and different sounds and, and this and that and type of thing. And, Jim came up in a time when Seymour Duncan was, a pickup repair guy, and he knew him from, before it was Seymour Duncan and, Jim Demeter was a good friend. And so he was always like tinkering. He was like, hey, can we do this? And can we do that? Hey, Seymour, can we do this? What about that? And there's a lot of products that if people knew Jim's influence on those products, it was massive.
Now, my earliest memory of seeing a James Tyler guitar was probably in the late 80s in a guitar magazine. I think it was Guitar World. And I remember seeing the headstock and thinking, that's the ugliest headstock on a guitar I've ever seen.
He saw a piece of stationery that was like a lawyer or something. And down the side of the page, it was this guy's name, but you didn't really see the name. You just saw this cool, So he was like, let me do just my name. So he tried that and he was like, something doesn't look right. And then he added the Tyler. He had this on a Strat headstock, right? What he wanted, he always hated how a Strat didn't hang straight. So he wanted the nub. Now you got string swing and it actually can turn. But back then it was like, we had hooks in the shop and they were all, Strat would always go, So he wanted the nub. And then all he did is just come straight across the name, tuck it in, and bring it around. That was it.
So the headstock shape was kind of informed by the logo itself.
Pretty much, yep.
it's a very interesting and unique headstock shape. And at some point in the mid-90s when I was in college studying music, my good friend Chris ordered a custom build. And I remember, it took a couple months, or maybe like 6 months. And when he got it, like all of us in the guitar program were kind of in awe of it. I was still on the fence with the headstock. And then a few years later, I became friends with another Tyler Guitars owner, the late great Dan Warner, who was like the A-list session player in the Miami studio scene. Now fast forward to more recently, I've been getting more into the 80s session players like Landau, Huff, Lukather, and really dissecting what they were doing on records and the tones. And when I would research all of this stuff that they were doing, Tyler Guitars was a brand that kept on popping up. So naturally, as we do, I fell down a rabbit hole of everything Tyler. I did a bunch of research. I probably watched every single YouTube video there is on a Tyler guitar. I even visited my friend Sean Tubbs, and he let me play his Tyler. And that really kind of solidified my decision to get one. So thank you, Sean. And at first I was considering getting a used Tyler on Reverb, but I thought, if I'm gonna pay top dollar for something like this, I might as well just get a new one and get a custom, spec it out the way I want it, get the finish that I wanted. And if you've been wondering how much one of these costs, it's not cheap. It's upwards of $5,000 US. And depending on the specs, it could be a little bit lower, it could be a little bit higher. And if I'm being honest, that was probably one of the reasons why it took me so long to get the courage and the cojones to order one of these. But I'm happy to say after a couple days of playing this that it really is worth the price tag. And I think I can say that because I've owned so many types of HSS, specifically Super Strats, over the years. I remember having a mid-90s Schecter with, I believe, Tom Anderson pickup, so it kind of comes from the same lineage of that SoCal Super Strat builder thing. I had a Sir Classic HSS, Fender, obviously, and you guys know my Nash that I put the Steve Lukather EMG set in. It's got the Floyd. And because I've had experience with so many others, I kind of knew what I wanted out of a Super Strat guitar. And I can truly appreciate the level of quality and attention to detail that certain companies have, like James Tyler. And again, I can honestly say this is the best HSS Strat I've ever had. So let's talk about the guitar. First of all, I knew this was going to be kind of a luxurious experience just by the way that it was packed and shipped. Beautiful G&G hardshell case in a pretty sturdy cardboard box, which was then put into another sturdy cardboard box. I mean, it might as well have been packed in like a wood shipping case because it was solid. And whoever is packing the guitars over at Tyler, you should make an instructional video for all the other companies to see. So this guitar I custom ordered through Wild West Guitars in Pasadena. So shout out to them, and Glenn and Ian, thanks so much for helping me. I went with the Studio Elite HD model in a Tuckerberry Shmear finish, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the Studio Elite model is what I think of when I think of Tyler guitars. Now they do make traditional Strat and Tele models among others, but I feel like the slimmer kind of contours of this particular model with this kind of cut-off pickguard are what I was initially attracted to. So let's talk about specs. Every guitar that Tyler makes comes with its own birthday card, like spec sheet. So this is, like I said, Tuckerberry Shmear finish. I went with the black headstock, chrome hardware all around. The neck is quarter sawn maple, Indian rosewood fingerboard. I did ask for like the darkest, almost ebony looking fingerboard. So thank you guys for picking this one out. The neck contour is what they call standard 59. I do believe they make a thinner, and they might make a thicker one. Fingerboard radius is compound 10 to 12 inches. The body wood is alder. Now I don't know the actual weight of this, but when I took it out of the case, I was surprised that it was pretty light. As far as the hardware goes, we've got hip shot locking tuners, which these are kind of different from me. These tuning pegs feel different. It's kind of cool. And the bridge is a G2TS. And what I like about this bridge, it does look like a traditional Strat bridge, but it's lifted above the body just a little bit, so you can have it floating and pull up. So, it's got a little bit of a Floyd feel, I guess, to it, but it stays in tune great. James Tyler logo on the saddles, which is pretty cool. Now we get into the nitty gritty, which is the electronics and the pickups. So for the single coils on this, I chose the JTS 5500, which seems to be kind of their standard, kind of the most popular single coil pickups. And for the bridge pickup, I got the Secret, which is more of a medium output. And if you go on their website, you can check out all of the pickups that they offer. They offer a lot, and they have really good sound clips of all of them. So it was kind of easy for me to choose which pickups I wanted. So here are the pickups completely clean with just a little bit of reverb, starting with the neck position. Neck and middle. Middle position. Middle and bridge split. Bridge, full humbucker. Now for the electronics, this is where the fun happens. One of the most popular features, and I guess the most distinguishable features of Tyler guitars, is their mid-boost preamp. And I feel like it's been part of their line since the 80s.
It was basically, you had 3 humbuckers, so you could do series parallel, and the preamp were all part of this thing that became that glassy thing. The most famous song being Thriller, Billie Jean. The song Billie Jean is David Williams. And he came in and told Jim exactly what he did. He said, he had a guitar that Jim modded and had 3 classic stacks, and it was all 3 on with the middle pickup in parallel. And they went direct, so into some kind of nice preamp direct into the board was the sound of Billie Jean. So that sound, if you go listen to Dan Huff and Lukather, and not so much Lukather, maybe a little bit, like on the 7th one, he used it, you can go to his website. But then Landau, if you hear, and of course another guy that doesn't get talked about enough, that people who are in the know is Dean Parks, and Steve, and all these cats were all coming to Jim, Pat Kelly, and gosh, who else? Tim Pierce, a couple guitars,
Sure.
But when you hear that, you think about Billie Jean, and then go listen to the other songs that those guys played on, and you can kind of pick out when they're doing some kind of combination of series and parallel with the mid boost on, but the mid boost down.
It's instant Landau. There's something about the top end that it boosts, the sparkle that it adds. When I have a clean tone with all the choruses and the delays and reverbs, that's the sound. That's the sound I've been chasing for a long time. The mid boost on, activated, knob at 0, and I'm actually putting all 3 pickups with the humbucker split. Let's go to position 2. So I've got the split humbucker in the middle. This is without the mid boost. And here is the mid boost. bypassed. So it does add a little bit of fullness. I do have a compressor on, so it might be taming some of those highs a little bit. But the more that I play with that sound, to me, it sounds best on clean tones. And honestly, the knob for the mid boost, I keep it on 0. Anything above sometimes adds a little bit too much boost in the low mids. Another feature that I opted for that isn't a standard spec is another push button, which allows me to get the bridge and the neck together, which is a feature that I've always wanted on Strats, and I'm so glad I have it on this. Basically, pressing this button wherever you are on the 5-way switch brings in the neck and the split humbucker. So when I'm on the neck or the bridge position on the 5-way, it's the same sound, neck and split humbucker. If I'm in positions 2, 3, or 4, the middle positions, it's all 3 with the bridge split. Now we got bridge split with the neck. Here is all 3 pickups with the bridge split. Another cool feature is, so position 1 is full-on humbucker. There's no push-pull pots to split the coil. But when you are in position 2, which is humbucker or bridge pickup and middle pickup together, it automatically splits the humbucker and uses the back coil, which is the perfect sound. That's what you want. And I kind of like that they've kind of done the thinking for you. The most common tones, they automatically have it wired. And really, this is kind of like the dream setup for an HSS for me. Let's talk a little bit more of the details. The back of the neck feels like raw wood, which is what I love. I hate finishes on necks. Even like certain satin finishes are a little too much. I prefer, the finishes sanded off. I had many guitars where I asked techs to sand off the finish so I could get to the bare wood. And this is, I'm not sure if there's some sort of oil or treatment on this, but this feels like raw wood. And the body, I chose the matte finish for this Tuckerberry Shmear. And you can get them glossy, you can get them kind of in the middle, I believe, but this is like their matte finish. It feels like spandex pants. It's hard to explain. It's like smooth, but you can tell that there's a little bit of texture in it. And I like that. Like when I was playing it first, on my forearm, I'm like, ooh, this feels nice and silky smooth. I had a hard time picking the finish that I wanted. I went through so many ideas. I know I sent Rich a couple photos of options that I wanted. And some of them were solid colors. Some of them were other Shmears. I think I was considering a yellow Dan Huff style guitar. But every time I would see one that was painted in this Tuckerberry finish, that always caught my attention.
So our painter is Tucker. He's our main guy. He's been with Jim for 13 or 14 years now, and came in as a young guy and learned the gig. And like, I'm the general manager, but Jim goes, just so you know, you're the general manager, but Tucker is number 1. So Jim was trying to, and we're still trying to figure it out. Jim wants to do a guitar called Blackwater. And so he's trying to think of a finish. So he's trying something and it kind of didn't work. So then Tucker's like, well, I got an idea. And Jim goes, yeah, go for it. Why not? Try it. And so it came out like that purple, cool looking thing. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I think whoever said it was, hey, well, you came up with it, so let's call it Tuckerberry, because we have all like the blueberry and there's a couple other ones that are something berry. So I was like, let's just call it Tuckerberry.
And I think I wanted to get the Shmear over just a regular solid color because they're all different. This is just, it's a personal process. I'm not exactly sure how it's done. It might be proprietary. Like snowflakes, they're all different. So I can almost guarantee that there's not another Tyler guitar that has the exact same coloring and smearing.
They're literally like fingerprints. One way, it's kind of genius. I'm actually able to track gray market stuff that gets sold to American dealers and then end up in stores in Asia, because all I got to do is I take a picture of every guitar that leaves, and I can just look and go, oh yeah, it's that fingerprint. I mean, it's like a finger. They're all different.
And I really think a combination of all of these, the sum of the parts, the attention to detail on the fingerboard, that's a big thing for me. The electronics and like my perfect HSS wiring setup, and the unique finish and the unique look. And of course, it sounds great. Okay guys, there you have it. That's my new James Tyler guitar. I'm absolutely in love with it. Big thanks to Rich Renken and the crew over at James Tyler Guitars, as well as the Wild West Guitars crew. This is definitely worth the wait of 25 plus years. If you want more information on James Tyler, as well as Wild West Guitars, I'll put their links down in the description. If you'd like to see more videos like this, gear demos or guitar lessons, click that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. I'm RJ Ronquillo, and I'll see you in the next video.